be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So the readings that we've heard today are the readings given to us for the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, which we celebrated here in our church and of course across the Universal Church last Monday, the 13th of May. And the Gospel given to us for this feast day takes us to the foot of the cross, to that particular moment when the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which is about to be pierced in the moments following his death, and that Sacred Heart is united with the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which is being pierced at this moment as she watches in agony the death of her son. It is this beautiful, tender moment of the union, the meeting of their two hearts, which is, of course, surrounded by darkness and anger. There's the whole machinery of the Roman military state efficiently executing yet another criminal, another enemy of the state. The coldness, if you like, of those soldiers just doing their job, putting another 3 men to death. And then there's the anger of the mob. Some of them there to be with Jesus, to support him as much as they could, to be as close to him as they could. But the majority of that mob, we can imagine, there to ridicule, to taunt him, to see this man who has claimed to be the very Son of God, to see him dying a cursed death. Cursed the man who hangs from a tree. To see him crushed and obliterated. So there is this extraordinary contrast between all of that inhumanity and brutality and hardness of heart surrounding the cross, but then at its foot, at its center, this extraordinary tenderness and intimacy between son and his mother, a mother and her son. And our gospel focuses on that most beautiful of gifts. In his time of agony and suffering, Jesus is totally focused on what he is to give. His total self-giving, this new commandment to love one another as I have loved you. He's showing it to the very final breath of his life. Giving, thinking of the needs of others. And this beautiful gift of his mother to John and to all of us. The tenderness of Mary for her son will be a tenderness for all of us. The courage and constancy of his mother will be a courage and a constancy for all of us. Her protective presence there beneath the cross will be a protective presence for all of us. Now, we jump forward almost 1900 years, and we come to another time of great darkness and brutality for humanity. We're now in the blood, the bombs, the bullets of the First World War. The most savage and cynically brutal war the human family had ever witnessed or waged upon each other. And we come to that moment of 1917. The war, as we know, had already been raging for 3 years. Millions of young lives, mostly young men, on both sides, already wiped out. A carnage, a destruction that humanity had never seen before. And it seems that the war has reached a terrible stalemate. Attack after attack, new campaign after new campaign, had just left more waste, more blood on the fields of Europe. So the generals and the military machine of their day were thinking of new ways to try to break this deadlock. And at the heart of that was the increasing use of a new machinery of war, new and deadlier weapons, new generation of tanks, new kinds of bombs and rockets that could go further and destroy greater numbers, and also a terrible new generation of chemical warfare. All of this was now being unleashed upon those poor young men on each side of the trenches. A terrible dawn, if you like, of a new waging of war in which machines, technology, would really be the deciding factors, and the soldiers the little pawns caught up in the midst of it all. So once again, in a moment of terrible brutality and human evil, we experience the tenderness, the presence, the protection of Our Lady. Far away from the battlefields, in a remote corner of Europe, saved from the ravages of war, in a little village near Fatima, those 3 children were at play. It was a Sunday, 13th of May in 1917 was a Sunday. They'd been to Mass early in the morning, taken their sheep out to pasture. Sheep don't know if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday or Sunday. Sheep still need to eat. So out they'd taken their sheep to pasture. And the children who already had been prepared the previous year by the visits of the Angel of Peace already received this beautiful, profound gift of a love for the Eucharist, adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, a hunger for prayer, an understanding of the fruits of penance. Their hearts, fertile soil, prepared for this moment, was suddenly awoken by the appearance of this beautiful lady. And this is how Lucia described that moment at midday. This lady appeared from heaven, standing, it seemed, on this little holm oak tree just a few yards from where they themselves were. And Lucia wrote this: She was more brilliant than the sun and radiated light more clear and intense than a crystal glass filled with sparkling water when the rays of the sun shine through it. So this brilliant, dazzling, radiating light of Our Lady. Again, into that time of human darkness, her light comes pouring forth. And when you read that first apparition, indeed the apparitions that followed, you cannot help but be struck by the similarities between that appearance of Our Lady to the children and the Annunciation, that appearance of the angel Gabriel to Mary as a young girl. Mary's first words to the children as the angel Gabriel are, "Do not be afraid." There is this beautiful warmth and tenderness and gentleness in Our Lady towards the children, which immediately puts them at their ease, just as the angel Gabriel had with Mary herself. And within the space of a few sentences, they are beginning to explore the greatest mysteries of God's love for us. A conversation about heaven, about purgatory, about an invitation of Mary, just as the angel Gabriel had invited Mary to a lifelong mission to change the world. So the children are invited by Mary herself to this new mission to change the course of history, to change the life of the world. Our Lady said to Lucia, "Are you willing to offer yourselves to God and bear all the sufferings He wills to send you as an act of reparation for the sins by which He is offended and of supplication for the conversion of sinners?" So it's a mission of sacrifice, of service, of penance, of prayer for the salvation of the world, entrusted to these three pure souls, three children who had been untainted by the hatred, the anger, the division that was filling the human heart in those days of World War. Three pure souls. And just as the light of Our Lady radiated through her pure vessel, so this invitation to create a new heaven and a new earth, a newness of life, a new beginning, so it radiates through those three children in their simplicity and in their humility. Yes, Lucia says to the invitation, just as Mary had said, "Yes, let it be done according to your will. Whatever is your will, Lord, I will give my heart and my life for that." Lucia and the children do the same. And Our Lady makes it very clear to them that this will be a mission which will cost them. She tells them that they will have much to suffer, that the grace of God will be with them and will strengthen them. So it's not their strength, it's the grace of God working through them. And her final command to them, say the rosary every day to bring peace to the world and an end to the war. Through the praying of this prayer, this gift of Mary to our human family, that prayer has a power. It's one of the most beautiful things I think about a day with Mary. You know, you bring the power of this prayer weekend after weekend around our country, in our parishes. It's like a pure oxygen in our polluted world, polluted atmosphere. This prayer is like pure oxygen, cleansing, renewing the atmosphere around us. It has a power which perhaps we don't ourselves appreciate yet. But Mary, every apparition, will urge them to pray the rosary, prayer and penance, sacrifice. This is what will bring the conversion, which will turn the human heart once again back to God. And then there's this beautiful final description from Lucia of the gift of heaven's own light, which flooded into their hearts as Mary blessed them. And I'm going to have to put my glasses on again, I'm afraid. Here we are. This is how she described it. We were bathed in a heavenly light that appeared to come directly from her hands. The light cut into our hearts and our souls. And we knew somehow that this light was God. And we could see ourselves embraced in it. By an interior impulse of grace, we fell to our knees, repeating in our hearts, "O Holy Trinity, we adore you. My God, I love you in the blessed sacrament." Beautiful. Just that pure grace, being strengthened, being protected by Our Lady, being filled with this light, and spontaneously being drawn into this ever deeper relationship with the Holy Trinity, this ever deeper relationship with Jesus in the Eucharist. For all that is to come, they will need all of that protection. They, like Mary beneath the cross, will experience the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. And it's only by remaining in that light of God that they will be able to, like Mary, fulfill their mission. Let's just jump forward again, just for a last little thought. Now you think about what followed after 1917 for the rest of the 20th century. The century in which God was rejected by humanity in a way that had never been witnessed before, through the ideologies that rose out of those days of anger and turmoil at the beginning of the 20th century, of communism, fascism, different forms of atheism, materialism. There came to be a hardness in the human heart, a rejection of God, an indifference to God that humanity had never seen before. Wars that would scar the human soul, scar our planet, our creation, in a way that had never been experienced before. True darkness, the darkness of evil. But at the beginning of that descent, if you like, there is Our Lady's gift to us of this peace plan, if you like. Fatima is often called heaven's peace plan. We're shown at the beginning of this descent into darkness and evil how to come out. Very simple lesson that Fatima teaches us. Sin and division leads to war. Prayer and penance leads to peace. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And we find ourselves now, over 100 years later, again faced with those choices. War and human conflict and division has evolved, you might use that word. It's taken on new forms. Technology is now a force that could destroy us. We've created a Trojan horse, if you like, for ourselves. It's the unseen kind of warfare, of cyber warfare, all that is done through the internet, all of the computerized world reality that lives around us. Not to condemn that. We can all benefit in certain ways from technology, but we all know that humanity has created a danger, a risk in technology, which could be our own destruction. There is also the terrible threat of climate change. And we have been given very stark warnings by experts in this field that we literally are coming to the edge of the cliff, the edge of the precipice. We have a generation, maybe two, to try and bring ourselves back from that precipice. And Pope Francis, in his great teaching on the environment, his beautiful encyclical Laudato Si', really urges us as Christians to wake up to the fact that we have been slow to come to this, but that we do have a unique part to play in the salvation of the world. Yes, we need to work together as a human family. We need all of the best of science, the best of technology, the best of what humanity can offer in a practical and technical way to save and protect our planet. But unless there is a beating heart, unless there is a soul in the midst of that, unless there is a conscience, unless there is a restored reverence for life in all of its forms, world of creation, for human life itself, unless there is that, then we are all sleepwalking towards the precipice. We're not truly a human family. This is what Pope Francis says about what we need to do now as a human family to work together in the face of this terrible threat. Many things have to change course, but it is we human beings above all who need to change. We lack an awareness of our common origin, of our mutual belonging, and of a future to be shared by everyone. We need once again to discover a renewed reverence for life. So, in times of crisis, times of danger, we learn the lessons which God has taught to us. And the greatest classroom, if you like, that we have witnessed ever is beneath the cross. The cross is where Jesus teaches us how to be human and how to know and experience the beating heart of God's love for us. It's beneath the cross that Jesus gives his mother to us, and so gives us this gift, this grace, to help us in all that will follow. And that includes in the challenges and darkness of our own day. Our Lady has given us in Fatima the roadmap, the plan for peace, the plan for healing. And it's all that we experienced and saw beneath the cross. It's that total self-giving. It's a life which is open to sacrifice and to service. It's a life which, in the midst often of darkness and evil and destruction, is dedicated to bringing light and hope and the love of God, breathing it into that darkness and destruction. So that is the invitation given to us. And as we celebrate this beautiful feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, may we really take to heart, really take to our heart the urgency of Our Lady's message for ourselves individually, to help bring us back from the cliffs that we might be walking towards in our own lives, and also the urgency of our human family, of our church community, really, really working together to be, as the children experienced at Fatima, that brilliant, dazzling, radiating light, the only light which can truly burst into the darkness of our world and bring hope and bring a new heaven and a new earth. Amen.